While the world obsesses over the drama, the feuds, the disgraced princes and the departed dukes, there is one member of the British royal family who almost never makes a headline for the wrong reasons. She does not give tell-all interviews, she does not chase the spotlight. She has never been at the center of a scandal that shook the throne. And yet, when you look closely at how the modern monarchy actually functions, at who holds it together when everything else is falling apart, one name rises above all the noise: Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, the king's only sister, and, in a way that has nothing to do with crowns or thrones, arguably the most powerful royal in Britain. Now, I want to be precise about what that word means, because Anne's power is not the kind you might expect. She is 18th in line to the throne. She will never be queen. She has no constitutional authority, no claim to the crown, no ambition for it. If you measure power the usual way, by proximity to the throne, Anne barely registers. But there is another kind of power, rarer and in many ways greater, the power of being utterly, absolutely indispensable. The power of being the one person an entire ancient institution knows it can always rely on. And by that measure, no one in the House of Windsor comes close to Princess Anne. Before we get into exactly how a woman who will never wear the crown became the monarchy's most essential figure, make sure you subscribe to Palace Files, because we tell the royal stories that go deeper than the daily drama, and this is one of the most fascinating of them all. So let's begin with the numbers, because with Anne, the numbers tell a story that words alone cannot. In the world of the working royal, there is one measure that cuts through all the speculation, and that is the engagement count. Every official duty a royal performs, every hospital opening, every charity visit, every ceremony and reception, is logged in the court circular, the official record of royal activity. It is in effect the monarchy's scoreboard. And for years, one name sat at the very top of it, year after year after year: Princess Anne. Consider the record. In 2023, Anne carried out 433 official engagements, more than any other member of the royal family. In 2024, she did it again, topping the list, this time increasing her total even further. She was by the cold hard evidence of the scoreboard, the hardest working royal in Britain, and had been for a very long time. This was not a title bestowed by flattering press, it was a fact, documented and undeniable, a reflection of a woman who simply outworked everyone around her, decade after decade. Then came 2025, and something remarkable happened, though not in the way you might think. For the first time in years, Anne was overtaken. But the person who overtook her makes the story even more extraordinary. It was her brother, King Charles himself, who reclaimed the top spot with 532 engagements, his busiest year since before he became king. And here is the astonishing part. Charles achieved that while undergoing weekly cancer treatment throughout the entire year. One royal analyst described him as indefatigable, saying it felt as though the House of Windsor was making up for lost time. But look at where Anne landed. Even in the year she was finally overtaken, she performed 478 engagements. 478. And according to the analysis, she actually worked more individual days than her brother the king, clocking 186 working days across the year. Let that sink in. At 75 years of age, Princess Anne did not slow down. She sped up, increasing her own workload by more than 10% compared to the year before. Most people her age are long retired. Anne was outworking nearly every royal in Britain, and outdazing the monarch himself. And now for Medio, the statistic that should stop you in your tracks, the one that reveals the true scale of her contribution. In that same year, Prince William, the heir to the throne, the future king, carried out 202 engagements. Anne did 478. In other words, the king's 75-year-old sister performed more than double the official duties of the man who will one day be king. She is not just a hard worker. She is, quietly, doing the heavy lifting of the monarchy, while barely anyone notices. And to understand how she became this way, this relentless engine of royal duty, you have to go back to the very beginning. Anne Elizabeth Alice Louise was born on the 15th of August, 1950, the second child and only daughter of the then Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip. When she was born, she was third in line to the throne. But as her brothers arrived and their children followed, she was steadily pushed down the line of succession, and today she sits 18th. For many people, being nudged out of the spotlight like that might have bred resentment, or a retreat into private life. For Anne, it seems to have done the opposite. Freed from the crushing expectation placed on the direct heirs, she built her own identity, and it was one defined entirely by work. She began carrying out official royal engagements in 1969, when she was just 18 years old. Think about that span of time. She has been serving the crown, publicly, for well over half a century. In 1987, her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, granted her the title of Princess Royal, a special honor reserved for the eldest daughter of the monarch, and one she has now held for decades. But Anne was never content to be merely ceremonial. She was, and is, a formidable individual in her own right. She is a genuinely world-class equestrian. She won a gold medal at the European Eventing Championships in 1971 and followed it with 2 silver medals in 1975. And in 1976, she made history by becoming the first member of the British royal family ever to compete at the Olympic Games. She later became a member of the International Olympic Committee, a position she has held since 1988. This is not a woman who inherited her achievements. She earned them, on the field, through discipline and grit. And that grit was tested in the most dramatic way imaginable. In 1974, there was an attempt to kidnap Anne as her car traveled down the Mall in central London. A man blocked her vehicle, and in the chaos that followed, several people were shot. When the would-be kidnapper demanded that Anne get out of the car, her response has become legendary. She reportedly told him, in no uncertain terms, not bloody likely. She refused to be taken. That single moment tells you everything about who Anne is: unflappable, fearless, made of steel. And that same steel is exactly what has made her so valuable to the monarchy across every crisis since. But perhaps the most revealing thing about Princess Anne is not what she did, but what she chose not to do. And it is here that you begin to understand why the public and the palace hold her in such extraordinary regard. When Anne had her 2 children, Peter and Zara, with her first husband, she made a decision that set her apart from almost every other senior royal. She declined to give them royal titles. Her children would not be a prince or a princess. They would not carry an HRH. They would grow up, as much as possible, as ordinary people, free to build their own lives and careers without the weight and the entitlement of royal status. Her daughter Zara went on to become an Olympic medalist in her own right. Her son Peter built a private career. Neither of them has ever traded on a royal title, because they were never given one to trade on. Think about what that choice represents, especially in the context of everything the modern monarchy has endured. In an era where the great crises of the royal family have so often revolved around titles, around who gets to keep them, around people accused of exploiting their royal status for personal gain, Anne did the opposite. She actively gave up privilege for her own children. She sought less, not more. She understood, instinctively, that the strength of the monarchy lies in service, not in status, and that philosophy, quiet and unglamorous, is precisely what has made her the moral anchor of the entire institution. While others have chased money, fame, and grievance, Anne has simply shown up, done the work, and gone home without fuss. No Netflix documentary, no memoir airing family secrets, no monetized titles, no scandal, just duty, performed relentlessly for more than 50 years. And it is that consistency, that absolute dependability, that transformed her from a supporting player into something far more important, the one fixed point in a family that has been anything but stable. Stay with me, because the years that tested that stability, most are exactly where Anne's true power revealed itself. The last few years have been, without exaggeration, some of the most difficult in the modern history of the royal family. Consider what the institution has weathered. King Charles was diagnosed with cancer and spent an entire year, and more, undergoing treatment while trying to fulfill his duties as monarch. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, was also diagnosed with cancer and had to step back almost entirely from public life to recover. The scandal surrounding Andrew reached its catastrophic climax, ending in his titles being stripped and his exile from Windsor. And the ongoing estrangement of Prince Harry continued to generate headlines and heartache. At any one of these moments, the monarchy could have looked dangerously depleted. With the king ill, the Princess of Wales recovering, one senior royal disgraced and another gone, the roster of reliable, working royals grew alarmingly thin. This is the kind of pressure that can genuinely threaten an institution built entirely on visibility and continuity. If the royals cannot be seen serving the public, the whole rationale of the monarchy begins to wobble. And in that dangerous, depleted moment, who was there, day after day, filling the gap, keeping the show on the road? Princess Anne. While others were forced by illness or scandal to step back, Anne stepped up, as she always has. She absorbed engagements, represented the crown, and provided the steady, visible presence the monarchy desperately needed. And she did this despite facing her own serious setback. In 2024, Anne suffered a significant head injury in an incident involving a horse at her country estate, an accident that saw her hospitalized. For a woman in her mid-70s, that could have been the moment she finally slowed down for good. Instead, she recovered and returned to her duties with remarkable speed, picking up right where she left off, back on the scoreboard, back at the top of the duty, working royals as if nothing had happened. That is what indispensability looks like in practice. Not grand speeches or dramatic gestures, but the simple, unglamorous act of always being there. When the monarchy needed a reliable face during its most vulnerable period, Anne was that face. She is the reason the institution never looked truly empty, even when so many of its stars were absent, and her value to the family runs deeper still, into the most intimate and trusted moments of all. because Anne is not just the hardest worker, she is also, by every account, one of the most trusted members of the entire family, closest to the very heart of the crown. And the evidence of that trust comes from the most solemn moments imaginable. When Queen Elizabeth II died at Balmoral in September of 2022, Anne was there. She was one of only 2 of the Queen's children who reached her mother's bedside in time. It was Anne who served as the informant for her mother's death, signing the death certificate alongside the attending doctor, taking on that final painful administrative duty for the woman who had been both her mother and her sovereign. In the days that followed, Anne accompanied her mother's coffin on its journey, and she made history once more by becoming the first woman ever to participate in the Vigil of the Princes, standing guard beside the coffin, a ritual that had, for centuries, been reserved for men. These are not the duties handed to a peripheral royal. These are the responsibilities entrusted to the person the family relies on most in its darkest hours. And that trust has carried forward into the current reign. Anne and Charles are known to share a genuinely close relationship, a bond forged over a lifetime as the 2 eldest siblings, the 2 who remember the same childhood, the same mother, the same sense of duty drilled into them from birth. In April of 2026, Anne was chosen to open a garden created in memory of Queen Elizabeth, on the centenary of her mother's birth, a poignant honor that reflected her role as a living link to the monarchy's recent past. This is the deeper source of Anne's power. She is not just useful, she is trusted, at the most fundamental level, by the king himself, and by the institution as a whole. She is the keeper of continuity, the one who was there at the end of one reign and stands as a pillar at the start of the next. In a family fractured by feuds and diminished by scandal, Anne is the thread that runs unbroken through it all, and that brings us to the real meaning of her quiet power, and why it matters more now than ever before. Here is the truth at the center of this entire story. Anne's power is not the power of the throne. She will never sit on it, and she has never wanted to. Her power is something the modern monarchy has come to need far more urgently than another claimant to the crown. It is the power of absolute reliability, the power of moral authority, the power of being the one, royal, whose reputation is beyond reproach, whose commitment is beyond question, and whose presence steadies everything around her. Think about the position the monarchy finds itself in today. It is an institution navigating a delicate and dangerous transition, an aging king in fragile health, an heir being prepared, sometimes clumsily, for a throne he will inherit sooner than expected, a family narrowed and bruised by the loss of Andrew and the departure of Harry. In a moment like this, what the crown needs above all is stability, trust, and continuity. And those are precisely the things Anne provides in abundance. She cannot give the monarchy an heir, but she can give it something arguably more valuable right now. She can give it a foundation to stand on while the great transition plays out. This is why figures like Anne become so crucial during a changing of the guard. When William eventually takes the throne, he will need trusted, experienced, scandal-free senior royals around him to lend the new reign credibility and calm. And there is no one in the family who embodies those qualities more completely than his aunt, the Princess Royal. She is the institutional memory, the proven workhorse, the steady hand that connects the reign of her mother to the reign of her brother, to the reign of her nephew that is still to come. In a monarchy obsessed with the line of succession, Anne has made herself indispensable to the succession itself, not as a rival to it, but as its guardian. And in that role, she has become something the flashier, more troubled members of the family could never be. She has become the living proof of what the monarchy is supposed to stand for. Because in the end, Princess Anne is a kind of quiet rebuke to everything that has gone wrong in the House of Windsor. Where Andrew sought protection and privilege and lost everything, Anne sought only work and gained the respect of a nation. Where others monetized their royal status abroad, Anne refused even to give her own children a title to profit from. Where scandal and self-interest damaged the crown, Anne's decades of unbroken, unglamorous service quietly repaired it. She is the answer to the question the public keeps asking of the royal family: what is the point of all this? Anne is the point. Duty, service, showing up, doing the work without demanding the spotlight. That is why the public reveres her in a way they revere almost no other royal. Her admirers call her a trooper, marvel at her dedication, and celebrate a woman who, well into her 70s, still outpaces royals half her age. She has earned that admiration not through charm or controversy, but through the slow accumulation of a lifetime of doing the right thing, quietly, again and again. In an age of noise, Anne's power is the power of substance, and substance, it turns out, lasts far longer than scandal. So the next time the headlines are consumed by the latest royal drama, by the feuds and the fallouts, and the fights over titles, remember the woman who never appears in those stories. Remember that while the family has been rocked by crisis after crisis, one person has simply kept the monarchy standing, through sheer force of duty. She will never be queen. She holds no constitutional power. She is 18th in line to a throne she will never approach. And yet, when the history of this fragile, transitional era of the monarchy is written, it may well conclude that the most powerful royal in Britain was not the king, nor the heir, nor any of the figures who dominated the headlines. It was the quiet, tireless, unbreakable Princess Royal, who held it all together, while no one was watching. Thank you for watching. If this gave you a new appreciation for the royal who does the most and asks for the least, hit that like button and subscribe to Palace Files, because there are so many more stories like this one, the real forces holding the monarchy together, and we will bring you every single one. We'll see you in the next one.